Susan, really, I appreciate you being here today, and I just want to have a conversation with you today. As you know, I am a career and life coach, and I work to help people really find fulfillment in their professional and personal lives. And
Mhm.
you are an amazing example of someone who has been on a journey, who's been working to find fulfillment in your life. And so, just to get us started off, I'd love to ask, so tell us a little bit about what you do professionally.
Well, I work primarily with leaders who are already pretty high achievers, but they're looking for the next step, for what they want to do next. And I also do a lot of strength-based coaching. So I work with people who are feeling like their confidence is waning. I work with them to build their strengths up so that they keep going with the projects that they're in the midst of. So that's the majority of what I do right now.
Okay. And for how long have you been doing this work?
I'm in my third year.
Okay. And what did you do before this?
Um, I was an artist. Well, I'm still
Okay.
an artist. So I was in college. I went back to school as an adult at 31. And while I was studying business and psychology in college for a degree, I decided to study interior design, which had to do with some other reasons. And to be brief, I was trying to have children, and I was looking for a career where I wouldn't have to leave my children and run to work and never be with them. So I got involved in interior design, and I ended up starting a company while I was getting a college degree. And so I did interior design from 99 till today. And I also designed some jewelry along with that.
Gotcha. Great. Um, so can I ask before we launch in, and I want to hear a lot more about your story and how you've gotten to where you have, but on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not even a tiny bit and 10 being you couldn't possibly be any more fulfilled, how fulfilled do you feel in your career?
Oh, easily a 10 or an 11.
Okay, cool. And then on that same scale of 1 to 10, how fulfilled do you feel in life in general?
I'd say about an 8.
Okay. And what does it mean to be fulfilled to you?
Well, for me, it means to be able to feel the freedom, to feel complete joy when I get up in the morning, just to be able to not let anything get in the way of me feeling joy for and gratitude for what I do have in my life.
Okay, thanks. Um, so you started talking a little bit. You told us about what you did before and are still doing.
Hmm.
And then you talked about, the coaching that you're doing a little bit. What I am really curious about and really think that it can be inspiring to others is, can you walk us through the journey that you've been on and maybe even start from before, if you think about coming from a place where you weren't feeling particularly fulfilled and how you got to the place of really living that fulfillment day to day, being a 10 or an 11.
Um, well, in order to go not too far back, I would say it's been, there's been kind of an up and down with that. So prior to being an artist, I was feeling a little bit displaced. Um, so I, when I finished my degree in psychology, my goal was to go further and to work with people, and similarly to how I work with people now. And 9/11 happened. And so it didn't seem like there was a clear path for me financially and otherwise to step into another level of education. so I got more entrenched in the design with my partner, and we created a pretty successful business together. And I did feel very fulfilled with the artistic side of the business, but not a 10, more of like an 8. And when we decided to move to Florida and restart our lives, we basically had to shut down the design business in North Carolina, put it on a truck, so to speak, move it here and start it again from scratch. And so I saw an opportunity there for me to reflect back on my psychology. And I actually was hiring a coach to help me make the transition. And through that process of looking for a coach, I realized I could become a coach. And I got very excited, and I researched several coaching institutes, and I moved into IPEC. And by the time I finished IPEC and started to coach, I knew that I had landed exactly where I was always meant to be. And as I shared my experience with people, people were very quick to say, you've always been a coach. You've always been that person. And now you get to do it for a living. So yeah, I am definitely living my life purpose.
Right. And I mean, you said you knew. How did you know?
How did I know now, or how did I know before?
I think as you were going through it, like you said that when you were going through your program that you knew you found your place. How did you know it at the time?
I have always known I was meant to work with people, to serve people, to be a helper. And I've always been a helper. I just didn't do it for a living. Yeah, I knew. I knew I was. I don't know that you know until you know. I don't know how to put that into words, but I think that's the reason that everybody needs to reflect on if they're really living their passion.
Yeah. You don't know how you know until you know. For you, I think the way people know, from conversations I've had with other people, how you know shows up differently. Is there a particular way that showed up for you?
Um, I think it happens on a daily basis in my daily happiness and contentment, and my absolute positivity. I'm never questioning that I did the right thing. I'm never asking myself, did I make a mistake? Should I have done this? Should I have gone back to school again? I'm a happier person. I'm a deep down happier person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Beautiful. Um, can you it sounds like some of your change was spawned through that move, right? And that you were leaving something. Um, can you talk about what struggles you had along the way in trying to figure it out? And it doesn't have to be just with this last step with the coaching, but through even being an artist and your interior design and all of that. What were the struggles in figuring it out?
Well, a lot of my struggles have been, and I hate to say this because now it's not a struggle, but have been being an introvert.
Hmm.
So sometimes having success with interior design or being an artist means you have to go out and network and meet people. I have been on a few television shows, and it was really challenging for me to be interviewed on television when I really wanted to be hiding behind a pillow. But I learned how to do it for the sake of my product and my business. You can't have something you love and believe in and not be able to go sell it and do the painful work of going on television and talking about it. So one of my struggles was my introversion, which now I think is a huge benefit for me. I'm very comfortable with that piece. I guess one of my big struggles that I think about when the move started to happen and I started to seek a coach was deciding what I wanted to do next, because I knew I wanted to do more, and I was turning 60. I guess I was turning 59 at the time. It was time to know what I was going to do. I went back to school at 31 and I went back to school at 59. And so you get to a point where you don't want to keep going back. You want to know, what am I going to do? So I think when I found coaching and I researched all these different schools to go to, when I realized I chose the right school and I was in the right program and I was connecting with the right people and I love the energy work, I just don't even know how to explain how comfortable I got in my own skin about everything.
Right. I have to sneeze. Sorry.
That's okay.
I feel it coming on. So I think that piece about knowing what to do next, in my experience with my clients, that's one of the biggest struggles that I see with people, is knowing what to do next. And so if I'm really understanding you, it was really through hiring your own coach and working with a coach that helped you get that clarity.
It was in very early conversations. I don't know that it's that I didn't know what to do. I don't think I knew coaching was an option. When I was a very small little girl, my parents put me in nursery school because I was too young to go to school and they worked. And I was the only, they came to pick me up one day and the woman said, your daughter is either going to be an actress or a social worker, because she has gotten a child to speak that has never spoken as long as she's been coming here. And apparently I was spending a lot of time trying to get this little girl to come out and speak, and she finally started speaking. So I just think it's really been a part of me, but I didn't know that coaching was, I didn't know enough about coaching to know it was an option. But I think the piece about finding what we want to do is not being afraid of what's really calling us. I think sometimes we know what's calling us, but our gremlins decide that we can't do that. You know, my first gremlin was, I can't go spend that money to go back to school, and what if it's not the right thing? You know, what if I go back again and it's not the right thing? And is my partner going to think I'm completely crazy and I just can't find my way? Which fortunately he was very supportive and it was the right thing. But I think part of it is people don't trust in their intuition enough to trust that what they're thinking they should be doing is what they should be doing.
And what helped you to be able to trust that?
You know, I think it's the what is it costing you to not do what you need to do piece. Like when it becomes more painful to stay still than to make a change. And I don't think I had anywhere to go. I mean, I could continue being an artist, but I knew there was more.
It sounds like you really had some intuitive hits, and some of these were things that had been with you since you were a child, as far as helping people, serving people, being able to really draw people out. That it sounds like was maybe just sort of part of your gift.
I think so. It's interesting. I was talking to my coach this morning because I'm writing a book, and a piece in the book is about our intuition. And so I asked her to coach me around this piece because I feel like I have a very fine-tuned intuition, and I'm really kind of curious why. Because I'm not someone who believes that only some of us have that, but I think some of us trust in our intuition more than others. And I think that is the big difference when we coach people and we talk to people who aren't sure of their direction or they're content to stay kind of stuck. I think maybe there's a chance they don't trust what their intuition, what their gut is really suggesting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for all of us to learn to tap into that, and I think for some reason as a child, I learned how to tap into my intuition. Now, I'm not going to say that I trusted my intuition, and that took more wisdom of aging to realize that if something was knocking on the door, it was probably real and I should probably listen.
Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to share a story perhaps around a time in your journey where you didn't trust that intuition and what that led to?
Well, I would say most of my personal romantic relationships, I did not listen to my intuition. I did not hear that little voice saying, this is probably not the right person. And I went forward anyway. And had I listened to that little voice early on that said, this guy's really nice, but he's probably not the one, I probably would have saved myself a little bit of heartache or a lot of heartache. Those are those are the most significant times.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
And as a young woman, I just didn't listen. I just, I wanted things to happen because of my age and what I thought was supposed to happen, or I really liked that person, but my intuition knew.
Mm-hmm.
And it usually does.
Yeah. Well, and I heard you use that word supposed to happen. I think that supposed to um, gets in the way a lot of people finding their own path because we're told we're supposed to do certain things. And
Mm-hmm.
if your path looks different, then the supposed to can really get in your way. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I think it's the shoulds.
Yeah.
From the parents to the peer group. And I think it affects a lot of clients that you and I probably talk to is they're stuck on the shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
I should stay in this job because I should continue to get this paycheck, or I think the pain has to outweigh the shoulds.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm also wondering, as a person who has had strong intuition and has been learning to trust in it more and more throughout their life, I have clients who sometimes talk about how they just don't even feel like they have intuition. They're like, okay, I'd listen to my intuition, but I don't have it. What would you say to them around that?
Well, that's something that we talked about this morning, my coach and myself. And first, I think we all have intuition, just as I think we're all have creativity. And I think somewhere along the line, somebody tells themselves or a parent tells them that it's hooey and not to worry about that because they have other things to worry about. I think it's something in my book that I'm going to try to tap into, helping people learn how to fine tune what is your intuition and what are the other messages that aren't your intuition, like the shoulds. Like I really want to marry that guy, but my intuition is not telling me he's the right guy. So how to separate, the messages from the intuition. I think it's something that if you have a client, or I have a client that feels like they don't have intuition, I think it's takes some acknowledging and some encouraging that we all have intuition, but some of us haven't really learned how to tap into that or to trust it. I mean, I think sometimes we need to use the word gut feeling or hunch, because I think some people think intuition is like eating butterfly wings and it's too far-fetched for them to have it.
Yeah.
So I think, talking to people about what their gut is telling them or what their hunch is might be a little bit more relatable for some.
Yeah. And I think what you said too about I'm looking for the right word, but really being able to discern fear or some of those other messages from intuition, right? We get messages or we feel things that come from a lot of different places, and it could come from the shoulds, it could come from fear, and it can come from intuition, and really
Hmm.
learning to discern the difference between them.
Absolutely. I think that what it comes down to is helping people work through. I think when people realize that question, how badly do I want this, they start to find those answers.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start to realize that I'm stuck, I'm in pain, I've hired a coach, I'm working on this, why can't I get to this peace? I think sometimes we have to reflect on how badly do I want this? And I'm sure you've had to ask yourself that, and I've had to ask myself that.
Yes.
And it's just really helping people to that place. I mean, we all get there at a different time.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I absolutely did as well. And how badly do I want this? And then realizing I had to be open to receiving
Yes.
what was next, and hearing those clues or seeing those breadcrumbs. So yeah, beautiful. Okay, so here is my like $50 million question. Like this is the one that really has stemmed this whole curiosity project that I'm doing, and wanting to talk to as many people as I can around this, is what do you see as the necessary ingredients to finding real fulfillment in your life?
For me personally, I think it took courage.
Okay.
I think I had to have the courage to accept the change and know that whether it was easy or hard, it was the only thing for me to do right now, not forever. But
Mm-hmm.
um, for me, I think the key ingredient is, getting the courage up to jump
Mm-hmm.
and know that, if I fall, I'll get back up.
Mm-hmm. Courage to jump. And what would you say, the courage to jump into what? Like, what's the other part of knowing what to jump into?
Well, okay, so that's the first piece that we talked about earlier, that, there are some people that don't know where they're supposed to go next.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess I didn't really ever need to explore that, because I kind of went from the design into the artistry into the jewelry, and the psychology and the coaching has always been in the root of, what I want to be. But I think um, coaching helps people explore that piece
Mm-hmm.
beautifully. Actually, I think coaching is an incredible way to explore what it is, because I think everybody deep down knows what they really want to be doing, but I don't think they allow themselves to think about it if it's not a should right now.
Yeah. So it's really the courage to, earlier you said, to not be afraid of what's calling us, and to put aside those gremlin messages. So the courage to really um, put the shoulds aside and step into what we truly know deep down is calling us.
Yes, and I think there's another piece that I'd like to mention that I have come across a few times. So there's this thing that we have called personal power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and maybe, and I'm not sure, but maybe for women more than men, we forget that we have the right to exercise personal power in situations. And so if you stop and you allow yourself to go, wait a minute, what power do I have over this moment in my life, over this period in time, over this situation of what I'm going to be? I think that's a piece of the courage, because I think when you look at your personal power and you look at your ability to believe that you can do what you think you want to do, and then the courage to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I think those, there might be three ingredients there. Trusting what you think and having the courage to jump, and also knowing, harness that power of yours, because that is your right and this is your life.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So, my last question I'm wondering about, and you've talked a little bit about this, but as you said, this has been a journey. It's been a long time in the process, and it sounds like it's been, you've had a lot of fulfillment, probably more than a lot of people have for a lot longer. But as you said, it's a journey. And so I wonder, if you're sitting right now at a 10 or 11 in that fulfillment, what's next then?
Giving that to other people. What's really next is being able to give other people a 10 or 11. I just think that's, I talk to so many people that I don't necessarily coach that are, I hate my job. What would you like to do? I don't know. I just hate my job. Or, they can't find that space in their personal relationships that work. And I just think, oh, if you could just, get past that 5 or 6, if you could just get to that space, you just want everybody to feel that good.
Yeah.
And my life isn't perfect. I mean, my relationship isn't perfect. My career isn't perfect, but I am definitely living the life I'm supposed to be living.
Awesome. Beautiful. I mean, what is perfect anyway?
Yeah, there's no such thing as perfect.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I love this project that you're doing, and I'm so excited to see it move forward and to listen to these videos and hear other people's stories.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited. I am so appreciative.
Such a brilliant idea.
And I think it's that intuition, right? Like I had to trust it, but when it came and then it had some very quick add-ons or iterations, and it was like, yes, yes, yes. So I put my analysis paralysis aside and jumped in. So thank you so much for joining me and being my first interviewee. And I should have said this at the beginning, but I didn't because we went over your name before, but I should have put it out there that you are Susan J. and you are Susan J. Hilger, and you are my coach. And as my coach, you've added so much to my journey in this past year. We've obviously had a lot of conversations around intuition and finding that clarity of what your journey is supposed to look like. So I appreciate your support of me in my journey and with this new project. And yeah, thank you so much.
So exciting. Thank you. Thanks for interviewing me. I hope this recording goes well.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. This is my first test, so we'll see how it I think this is going to be a learning process for me to figure out exactly how to get it out there, but I think that your story will be inspiring for people, and I'm thankful that you're willing to share it. So
awesome. Thank you
so much.